All right, welcome to season 2, episode 2 of From the Shadow. I hope you guys are really enjoying the season so far. Please make sure you're following us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. It's just at From the Shadow Podcast. So follow that for all the updates and the cool stuff. Today's show was a lot of fun. I sit down with Hannah Hicks, who is the daughter of probably the most legendary female in sportscast history, Hannah Storm. Hannah and I got to know each other at a charity event a few months ago. We've kept in touch and kind of developed a friendship. So it's really cool to get to know Hannah's daughter and get to know more about their family. Also, if you watch golf or the Olympics, you probably know the voice of Hannah's dad. He's an NBC sportscaster. His name's Dan Hicks. He's called some of the most memorable moments in the Olympic history. So you would definitely know his voice if you watch the Olympics at all. One of the cool things that we get into is how sports was so prevalent in Hannah's life growing up that she kind of ran from that, and she's in a completely different field now. She's living out in LA, and she's managing some really big names in the pop music world and just breaking down walls and creating a completely new culture that's really cool. So I think you guys are going to enjoy this episode. Let me know what you think. But here it is, season 2, episode 2, From the Shadow with Hannah Hicks. Have you ever wondered what it would be like growing up if your parents were famous? When the eyes of the world are on you from birth. My name is Chad Bearden, and for the last decade, I've toured the US and Canada playing country music. Along the way, I've made some amazing friends who happen to be famous or are the child of a famous person. Listen as I go backstage, behind the curtain, and talk with them about growing up in the shadow of their parents, the ups and downs of being born into fame, and their journey into making their own name and leaving their own mark on the world. Welcome to From the Shadow. All right, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited. We have our very first Zoom video interview for the podcast. This is new to me. I didn't do a lot of this in the virtual world. I did a little bit of like songwriting via Zoom, but still wasn't very good at it. But we're getting into it, and I'm so excited to have on the show today Miss Hannah Hicks. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well, and you're in LA, right?
I am. I'm in East Side.
Yeah. How's the weather in LA right now?
It's actually pretty cloudy, which is obviously not typical, but it's kind of nice. And we're, approaching summer, so I've had a few good pool days recently. And yeah, it's nice. Wouldn't be anywhere else.
That's awesome. I still have to get out to LA. I've been in the music industry for like a decade now, and I've toured California, but never been to LA, of all things. But I've always wanted to come out there and ride and that kind of stuff.
You got to. It's where to be.
Yeah. So let's just kind of set the stage and let people know who your parents are and kind of all that good stuff and what made you who you are and what you do, and we'll get into what exactly it is that you do. I recently just met your mom, and kind of we did a charity event together, and I got to tell you, I absolutely love your mom. She is
the best.
The sweetest. We bonded over IVs. We did like this charity event was like 2 days. So the first day, like everybody just kind of hangs out and you go out the night before. And then the next morning, everybody gets up and gets an IV to kind of replenish to go for day 2.
Oh my God, that's so fun.
But so we're getting IVs and talking and all that good stuff. But I didn't even tell people who your parents are. So your mom is Hannah Storm.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new edition of SportsCenter. I'm Hannah Storm, and here's what you need to know.
ESPN SportsCenter anchor.
Icon.
And yes, absolutely. One of the, if not the leading woman in sportscasting, like
Basically, yeah.
yeah, like one of the absolute most iconic sportscaster of all time, but definitely female sportscaster.
Yeah. Yeah, she's the
And
first female solo host of SportsCenter.
right. And also the first duo to do a sport, like to do play by play with
Yeah,
she's
she
on
is.
Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, she has so many like firsts and so many like trailblazing moments, and she is the best.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky to have her as my mom.
So I randomly pick out like 90s movies and make my kids watch them. And the other day we were watching Like Mike,
Oh, classic.
and I totally forgot that she was on there and she was doing like a sportscasting
Yeah.
bit on the,
Yeah.
on this kid. And I was like, holy crap, it's Hannah. So I like recorded a little bit of it and sent it to her, and she was dying. She's like,
I
oh
love
my
that
gosh,
movie.
that's great.
Yeah, I watch the movie like at least once a year. It's so good. She has like a lot of random cameos. She has like that one. She's in Valentine's Day too. And I remember like as a kid, I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah, like Taylor Swift, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, Taylor Swift is. I think she's in that movie.
Yeah,
yeah. But
like so many random people in that movie.
I know. And she was like, I remember when she was like, when she had gotten that like part, or I guess like playing herself, she was like reading the cast to me, and I was like, oh my god, this is like insane. And I was like, oh my god, are you gonna be at the premiere? And she was like, no, there's like already too many other celebrities there, so she wasn't even invited. But
well, that movie kind of seemed like, let's call every famous person we know.
Yeah, it's like one of those.
See if they'll be in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. One of those where it's just like everyone is someone.
Yeah. And your dad is also a sportscaster, right?
Yes.
So
he is.
NBC Sports currently.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. NBC Sports, and he also does the Olympics every year. He does in the winter he does skiing, and I think he used to do speed skating. I'm not sure if he still does it. I don't think he does. And then in the summer he does swimming and diving. So really exciting sports, and it's so cool to see every year like him doing his thing.
And your dad is Dan Hicks. We should say
Dan
that.
Hicks.
So make sure, if you are not familiar with them, you probably don't watch sports, and that's okay. We all have our own interests, but definitely two iconic sports host, anchors, reporters, and who've been doing this for a long. Your mom's like first like mid 80s for your mom, right? And probably at the same time.
Yeah, they actually met like anchorman style at, I want to say, CBS Sports or CNN, one of the two. And yeah, they were like on a show like together as co-anchors, and my mom was dating someone else at the time, and then they were just friends and then became more friends. I always think that's so funny because like I always would watch Anchorman as a kid too and be like, oh my god, like that's how my parents met. So it was super cool and cute that happened that way.
That's awesome. So what was childhood like for you with growing up with that dynamic?
It was interesting because sports was so like just everywhere in my life and forced upon me in a way, not like an obnoxious way, because my parents are really supportive and we're always like, like follow your own dreams, and we're always supportive like when I wanted to get into things like acting and music and dance. But it was funny because like I just did not care about sports. To this day, I still am not super into sports at all. But I would always, go to the golf tournaments, always go to the games, like whatever my parents are working on. My mom was also a morning show host for the early show at CBS when that was a thing. So she was always, getting up in the mornings, like at 4 a.m. That's pretty much still, she does that for SportsCenter. She'll get up at 4 a.m. every day, write her show before like at like 6 a.m. And which I think a lot of people don't know is that like, she also like writes the show as well. She doesn't just like speak it.
Right.
And yeah, so like a lot of like early mornings, I remember like my mom would like interview a lot of people that I was a fan of. Like she interviewed the Sprouse twins. She interviewed like Ashley Tisdale, like all like my favorite like Disney stars. And I whenever it was a sports person, I was always like,
Right.
But I did love soccer and I did love Mia Hamm, and I did get to meet Mia Hamm when I was little. So that was really cool. And now, I definitely like, there's a lot of athletes I follow because of like their cultural like influence.
Right.
But golf, I was always like whenever my dad, because that's his primary sport that he does, I was always like, oh, like me and my sisters were just like dreading it. We were always like so bored and like, but like it's obviously still cool. And like there's
Right.
so many people who I think like a lot of my friends who are like sports fans were like, oh my God, like your parents have the coolest jobs. Like, and it was really, really cool. But to me, I was kind of just like, okay, like I'm more into like other things because sports was so like forced upon me. I was never good at sports. And I just didn't find a lot of sports interesting. But nevertheless, it was always still so cool to like see both of them and like how they were able to like have such like keep such a great like family dynamic, because like they're traveling all the time. Both of them like rarely saw, or really rare was it to have like all of us like together as a family. Like usually be like my mom traveling or my dad traveling. um but it was still really great. Like they, would really make time for family time, and we'd always have dinner together every single night, as a family, whoever was there. And yeah, it was just really cool, especially seeing my mom, because like there really isn't a more male dominated industry than like sports and like sports casting. And just to like see her also just be such an amazing mom, or like I felt like she was very present, and like I'm not sure that like I would have that energy honestly, like that she has, to like be waking up at like 4 a.m. Every day, coming back from work around 2, taking a nap for an hour, and then by the time we got home from school, like being, up and ready to like be a mom, help us with our homework, make us snacks. Um, she's a great host too, and like loves meeting people, is super outgoing. And like, I feel like I definitely got that from her too. And yeah, it was really, really positive just to like, see her like just absolutely kill it at her job and being a mom, and really seeing that like you can really do it all. And so yeah, that was just really great to see from a young age.
Yeah. So what age like did you start figuring that out? Like my parents don't have they're not working at the bank, or they're not, they
Oh,
don't have the typical job. They kind of have this really cool job,
yeah.
and people know who they are. So like what age did you start figuring that out?
I think it was just always a part of my life, because like they've been on TV since I was little. So it'd always be like a thing. Like my, babysitter, or whoever was like watching over me if both my parents were working, they'd be like, look, like there's your parents like on TV. So I think like that was like when I was like a baby, I was like watching, I guess. And like I don't remember obviously, but um yeah, when I was a baby, I was like watching them. And yeah, I guess it was kind of just from when I was a kid. And then later on, like yeah, later on, I guess people would like come up to them, and I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. Like I didn't really, I thought that she like worked with cool people, but like I didn't really register like how known they were,
Right.
also. And I think it's definitely more of a thing where people would like recognize my mom. No one really recognizes my dad. People recognize his voice, because like I think a lot of the time they hear his voice more than they see him. But a lot of people definitely will recognize my mom. And it's super cool. It was really cool. But like it was also like when she would like talk to people, I was always like, oh, like whatever. Like I was kind of, I don't know, I was kind of like obnoxious as a kid because I didn't really get how cool it was.
Right. So and you have two sisters, right?
Yes.
Okay. And one of your sisters is at Duke currently?
Yes. Yeah. The youngest sister, Riley, is at Duke. She is studying like tech and global mental health. She's definitely like the smartest kid for sure. Like my parents really got it right with that one. And then Ellery is my middle sister. She is in New York, studying at Parsons Fashion Design School, and she has the best fashion taste. And she's just killing it out there
Yeah.
with that stuff.
Your mom is all about the shoe game, I found out.
She is. Recently she's been working on this project that can't say too much about, but it's very sneaker heavy specifically. So it's so funny. She's like a sneakerhead now.
Well,
And
that's so I have an endorsement with this company called New Music. And
oh
so
word.
like I had their shoes on at that event, and she was like, what are those shoes and where did you get them?
Oh my
And I
God.
was like, well,
That's so funny.
I'll just get you a pair sent out. How about that? And
Oh my
so
God.
yeah, we sent her out a pair, and
Cute.
yeah, she tweeted them out.
Of course she
That's pretty
did.
cool.
She's so good about that. I'll always like, it's funny, like sometimes I have like friends who like work for brands and like for example, my friend Cami, she works for Splendid, and like that's my mom's favorite PJ company or like clothing company. And like I like got her like some free stuff, and she's like always like, just so on it with like the
Right.
social stuff. She's like better at Instagram and like all that stuff than I am. And she's like like easily able to like learn about new things and like adapt, and like she's like the hippest mom ever.
Yeah, she ripped me about my Instagram, by the way. She was like, "Why do you not have a blue check mark?"
I'm sure she
And
did.
I was like, "Because I'm not Hannah freaking Storm." Like, I was like, I've tried to do this process, like,
I know.
and I'm an independent artist. I don't have a label who does this for me. Like,
Yeah.
and she was like, that needs to get fixed. So
Yeah.
I'm currently working on it. I think we're
Yeah, you got
almost there.
flying.
So I found some help. So hopefully
Awesome.
Hannah
That's
will be
great.
satisfied that I get a blue check mark. But she's like, that's unacceptable. You need a blue check.
Yeah, she says it to me too. She's like, you need to post more. And I'm like, or she's like, on the grid, like you only do stories. And I'm like, oh my God, mom, like I'm not a public figure. Like,
On the grid. That's
but I love
awesome.
that. She is like so good at like Instagram. And like, then she's like, should I get TikTok? And I'm like, no. I was like, don't get TikTok, like, please.
Oh, TikTok is such a confusing. TikTok has become my biggest social media.
Of
Like,
course it
I
is.
blew up on TikTok, got TikTok famous, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, of course it is.
And my kids hate it. But the thing is, like, it's not my music or my podcast. And it drives me absolutely crazy. But whatever, it's working. It's bringing some people
Yeah, you gotta
over.
just
So
like
that,
promote your other stuff like on TikTok too. And like, it's sick. The algorithm, it like, there's nothing like it right now.
and it's changing constantly.
It is. It
Like,
is.
figuring out, like, for a while I was in a really good, like, I knew exactly when I was supposed to post and blah blah blah, and then they like changed it. So
Yeah.
it went from being like 3 o'clock in the afternoon would help your videos get the most views. Now it's like 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. It's
Like,
also
so
weird
it's
because it's like there's different TikToks from like months ago sometimes show up on your For You page. And like it's really cool. There's like, they can kind of like choose when to push it given like what else is happening. So
right.
it's kind of cool that way, I think.
Odds are, if you watch TV, you've seen plenty of ads for lawyers.
It's usually a lawyer telling you how great they think they are. But at the Verdoliak Law Group, it's different. It's always about the client.
In fact, all of us are actual clients, and we're here to proudly tell you how much the Verdoliak Law Group has done for us.
What impresses me most is how much the Verdoliak Law Group believes in their clients. They only get fees if they win, and they use their own dollars to take cases to trial.
It's that ability to fight for their clients and win at trial that has helped the Verdoliak Law Group recover over $9 billion, and the insurance companies know that.
$9 billion, over 30,000 clients represented, and almost 60 years in business. That's a testament to their strength, knowledge, and success.
In fact, call them with all your legal needs. Like the saying goes, if they've been around that long, they must know what they're doing.
If you're injured in a car or truck accident, any work-related injury, or as a result of a medical error,
Call
Verdoliak Law Group.
where it's always about the client.
Injured? Call Verdoliak Law Group.
So speaking of all that stuff, let's get into a little bit of what you do now and kind of how you got there. So you are an artist and producer manager, right?
Yes.
And but you work specifically with like non-male producers and artists, right?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know when, I mean, I've always like had a love for music, and that obviously came from, my parents just like playing, a variety of genres around the house, from like Elvis to like Outkast and like Kanye to like, Fleetwood Mac and Sade and like random, just kind of like Frank Sinatra, like a lot of that. Just kind of like all over the place, but music was always super present in my childhood. And then like, I would always like loved the arts too. I was like a big dancer. I wanted to be an actress. And I think I just like really fell in love with music like in middle school when I had no friends. And I was just kind of like online a lot because I went to like a Catholic middle school. Everyone was like super mean and like just like not like, I was like in Connecticut. I was like, I don't want to be here. Like I want to be in like this city, or I want to be in California because I'd always come out here when my parents are working.
Right.
And be like, oh my God, this is so much cooler than Connecticut. Like, why am I there? And so then I like really, after visiting LA a lot, and like seeing just everything that was going on here, like the spirit of it all and like how art centric it was, I was really made it my goal to move out here and like have a career here and live here. And I also wanted the weather because I was never a huge fan of the cold either. So that was another factor. And yeah, so then I just, kind of did everything that you could do as a high schooler, I guess, like kind of when I realized I wanted to go into music. I obviously wasn't like a good enough musician. And I kind of knew that to do that, but I wanted to be involved. And I was like, I know that there's some people that like, I guess, help make everything happen for an artist. So I just made it my goal to like work with artists that I love and that I'm a fan of. And yeah, I like would work festivals like in my town, and like my mom would host this like Greenwich Town Party festival. So it's like this, like, I guess the closest thing to like a music festival that is in Connecticut. We'll have like Hall & Oates headline and like people like that. But for me, that was like a open door to like at least have something on my resume that was like music related. And then I would go to New York a lot. I go to a lot of shows. I took like all the like high school classes at like NYU. And then like once I, was really deciding like that's what I wanted to do, my parents were really, really supportive, especially my mom, just like, always like keeping an eye out for like people that she would meet, that she could connect me with to like kind of, give me advice and stuff. And yeah, we like, USC was like my top choice because it was out here. And she was definitely like super supportive with that, like taking me out here to visit and all that stuff. And, it was really sad for her. She was like, I don't want you to be so far away, but, she was just like, she kind of knew that this is like where I wanted to be. And then, yeah, like from there, I mean, honestly, like I really get my work ethic from my mom, and my like outgoingness, I guess, to like meet new people and like forge really like genuine connections and not be like so like forced networky vibes. Like I feel like she does a really good job of like, making people like feel like she's like listening to them and just like also like, learning about other people and like seeing like where you can like connect the dots, like as I'm sure you've kind of seen with her. And so yeah, then that's kind of like from there, like once I was like at USC, I kind of was like realized that in this business school is like really not relevant in ways. Like no one really cares like where you went to university, so long as you like have experience and like are hardworking and like have good taste and like,
right,
just like actually have like work to show for it. Like a lot of the time people be like, oh, like USC kids, like, and there was like actually kind of like a negative connotation a lot of the time, which I actually totally get, because despite it being a great experience for me, there definitely were some kids there. Definitely not all of the kids. Like I met some amazing people and a lot of my best friends there to this day, but there are a lot of kids who are kind of just like there, and, expect everything to come to them because they went there.
right.
Which I quickly learned was like not helpful. So I met my favorite band on a plane at the time. Their name is Waves. I met them on a plane. I was wearing their merch coincidentally. And I was like,
That's
can I interview you guys? And then I just like kind of ran their merch store and like, helped out with whatever they needed. And that was like my first official like internship. Then I went on to intern at other like management companies and major label publishing companies, and that's where like I really fell in love with the creative side, like which people call like A&R, who I'm sure you know that term, but
Yeah.
yeah, for everyone else, it's like basically guiding a artist like creative career in terms of like, like what songs what should they put out, or like who should they work with, like collaborators, like all that stuff. And I'm already such like a connector type of person that's what I get from my mom for sure. So I was able to, just kind of like meet a lot of different people, like artists, producers, and managers, and people from my internships and all that. I also worked a lot of festivals. I PA'd Coachella and like Flogna, and I was driving golf carts, met a lot of people that way. A lot
You
of
really
like,
got into like, you really did the grind. That's
yeah, no, I did. And like, I was also someone that was like, I wasn't really like, my mom would like occasionally have like, the person to like introduce me to, and like, but I was definitely very like set on like doing the work and like putting in the work, and like not like using my mom's name like ever. I actually like would really rarely, people who I knew were like sports fans, like I just wouldn't like tell people, because I just didn't want them to like, treat me any sort of different way at all.
right.
But yeah, so I would do that. I got my first full-time job senior year of college, and at that point I was just like working way too hard in a way where I was like, and the person I was working for was like a really bad guy. I learned a lot. I, gained a lot of my skills there. So like, I'm definitely not saying that like I would have gone back and like done it differently, but like my mom was definitely like, are you sure? Like this guy is like, preventing you from like, going to lunch with me when I'm in town because you have so much work to do. And like, it just really like exploited and like taken advantage of. And it's an easy industry for that to happen, as I'm sure like there's
For
just a lot,
sure.
there's no HR with like management companies and like artists and like artist teams a lot of the time, like unless you're at a major label. And even then, like a lot of the time, you're just really not protected. And it's kind of like, you're out there, really fending for yourself. And, I was young, I was like really eager to just like do the work and like kill it. And so, yeah, I was definitely like taken advantage of a lot on my first job, but I just quit like after like, going to therapy and like talking to my mom about it more. And she was like, yeah, this is like really not a good guy. And my parents met him, and they were like not getting good vibes from him at all. Which, definitely is like a good indicator of like, this person's really not a good person. And then, yeah, so I ended up quitting, and then enjoyed the rest of my senior year, which was like 3 months. And I was like, because I was working, like going to class like every day, definitely getting underpaid a lot, because I was told this is how the business works, and it's definitely not how the business works. Because now I was able to then after that meet my mentors who I have now, who are great. These guys, John Tanners and Dowda Leonard, who I still work with, and they're great. Just absolutely like exemplary people in terms of like, like morals and spirit and like work ethic, and they're just absolutely amazing. And I've learned so much from them. And that was like, I guess almost 3 years ago, I met them through cold email, because I was just basically, I felt like I had to start from scratch in my last job because it didn't really end on great terms. And he was like, you can't, and I didn't want to like rely on any of his connections either.
So I
yeah.
want to ask you just a little bit about
Yeah,
that,
go for it.
because
Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
no, I love it. You make this super easy. But so obviously my experience comes from the Nashville side of things, and
Yeah.
I don't know the workings of LA, but in Nashville, while it's a big city, especially inside the country music community, it's also a small town.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very easy for, I mean, it's also, it's almost like high school, like crap gets spread really
Yeah,
easy.
exactly.
And so a lot of times, if you have an experience like that, sometimes it is hard to overcome. Or is it the same way in LA?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, there are still a decent amount of like people in power who, shouldn't be, because of like the shit that they've tried to pull and all that. But I'd say with this particular man, people definitely like word has like gotten out, and it's yeah, like especially within the younger generation too. Like I feel like we have a lot less patience for that, and we can really just talk amongst ourselves, and like we're not, especially like as women too, like I feel like a lot of us like aren't as afraid as prior generations to be like, yo, like this person like really exploited me, or like was creepy, or like stuff like that. And I really try to have as open of a dialogue as I can about that with like other women in the industry, just because it's like safety, honestly. And like I think, yeah, it does all come around. And like there's like, because there's no like HR, really all we have is like the ability to like rely on each other as creatives and people who can very easily be taken advantage of. So
And there's a
for me,
huge difference in talking crap and looking out for each other.
exactly, yeah. Like I mean, I'll like fully like I'll say it to their face too if I have the
Right.
opportunity. But and I know a lot of other people like aren't that like confident or like care. But yeah, like yeah, it's just it's this matter of like safety, and it's a matter of like I don't want other people to go through a similar experience that I did. And yeah, so that's why it's like really difficult. And I've also seen like my mom too, like like stand up for things as well, like on the air, and other like issues that like women are facing and stuff too. So I was like always very much like grew up with the idea of like definitely like say something, and don't be silent. And we still have a long way to go, I think, but the more I think the younger generation is definitely yeah, easier to like stand up for themselves. And yeah, it's just like you said, it's really small industry, so like how you act and like how you conduct yourself, like that's always something that people are going to be talking about. And
Right. So do you enjoy the management side of things? Do you want to keep going to that track? What's kind of your goal moving forward?
I do. I love it. I love being on, I love like having like a bird's eye view kind of like my client, and then like all the other factors. Like I feel like if I were to like work at like a label or like a publishing company where like I have a bunch of clients, but it's like that's like my only part of like what I'm doing with them, then I have to like then trust like the other manager to like make sure that their manager to like make sure that their career is going well. And like at the end of the day, like it's like all the excuses like kind of like stop and end with like you and your client.
Right.
So I definitely like that responsibility, and I that's, it's just like the easiest way for me to like kind of like holistically like help someone like build their vision, and like kind of have a say in like all parts of it.
Right.
And yeah, I love like being on a team too. I have like amazing co-managers for most of my clients as well, so it's like not just me that's working on most of my clients.
Right.
But yeah.
So are you doing like day-to-day management right now, or tour managing, or what? So for people who don't know, maybe kind of break down the differences.
Yeah.
So like if any given artist, especially a signed artist, is going to have multiple managers.
Yeah.
So where are you in those rings, and kind of explain a little bit about the differences in those jobs?
Totally. So I started out like 3 years ago. I was doing day-to-day management for a bunch of producers and artists, like Take a Day Trip, who they produce all of Lil Nas X's stuff and more. DJ Dahi, who's like one of Kendrick Lamar's main producers. Michael Ozuru, who's one of Frank Ocean's main producers and Rosalia's main producers. And that's on the producer side. And then I would also work for B Miller, who's a pop star who, it's funny, our moms actually worked together. We met when we were little, and then I like ended up working for her. And some other people as well. And I kind of like found my like, I feel like a lot of like when you're like a producer manager, a lot of that like is A&R specific, but we also were working with this rapper, Ice School Bishop at the time. And because he wasn't signed, I was like kind of like tour managing it as well. So, and that's just basically like making sure that like everything is advanced properly. If there's merch involved, like, taking care of that stuff. And kind of just like mapping out itineraries and stuff. And yeah, as a day to day,
it's the most like boots on the ground part
yeah,
of the
definitely.
job. Absolutely.
And as a day to day, you're kind of just like assisting the main manager who's, I guess, going through the more like high level, like record deals and like brand partnerships and like, actually like kind of like in the thick of like all the big picture, like financial stuff. You're kind of just like managing them in a way, and also helping manage the artists so that like their communication flows very efficiently. And, you're kind of just like actually able to like get things over the line. So I was doing that for a while. I definitely found my like niche though in still doing like A&R stuff and, having insight on, music and like where, who people should collaborate with and stuff like that. So that was kind of ended up being my role for B, as I would, just set up a bunch of sessions and, like provide my insight on like the songs and whatnot, and kind of just like put that all together. And then, I've also like, set up numerous, things for the other producers as well. And then, during COVID, one of my bosses, Dowda Leonard, he started managing Grimes, who's like one of my favorite artists of all time. And I was just like jumped at the chance to like, be involved with that project. So now I'm still going to be, even as I'm building my company now, my own company, which I'm like the manager, like
Right.
I'm still like doing like, I guess, day to day and like A&R stuff for her. And that's just because, we have a large team where it's like, I'm not just like the one that's like scheduling for her and everything and doing the day-to-day stuff, but I'm like doing all the creative stuff, like turning in her album, giving feedback on like mixes and like making sure that all that's getting done. And because she's obviously pretty I don't know how familiar you are with her, but she's pretty like, self-sufficient and like, produces everything, most of the things herself. And
Right.
is just such an icon that I like grew up like going to her shows and stuff. So it's surreal to be able to like be involved with her. I hope that like kind of answers the questions. But
Yeah. So,
on.
I mean, so essentially like what you're doing now and you're kind of the manager who oversees all operations, but you're also like, you're where the buck stops.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
the contracts come through you, the mixes come through you, that you're the person at the end of the day who is telling the artist, this is your best route to go, or this is not your best route to go.
Yeah, yeah. And like having kind of that like overall, like, just kind of like knowing their goals and like their mission and like how they want to be like perceived, and how they want their art to, touch people, and like, what their vision is for themselves. Like thinking about that like holistically with like every single, move that you make, or every single, things as like little as like, or I guess, large too, like what do we call this album? Or like, what's a good caption for this post? Like kind of like a bunch of different stuff that all like encompasses like who that artist or producer is and like what their goal is.
It's and at the end of the day, it's all the brand.
Yeah, exactly. And just like keeping that in mind, like not from like just like one single like income source or like situation, but like holistically, and also like thinking about it like just for the future. And like, I hope that all the clients that I have now, like I'll be able to work with them, through their careers.
Right.
And lives.
So your mom was so excited to tell me that you were just featured in Rolling Stone.
Oh, it was Billboard, but thank you.
Billboard. I'm sorry. Billboard. Yes, that's what it was.
No worries.
So tell me about that.
It was so cool. So me and my friend, also named Hannah, we met through when I was on Take a Day Trip's management team and she was managing Lil Nas X. And we became really good friends, and she brought me this girl, DJ Dave, who now we like co-manage together. And she produces her and performs her music using code. And it's like this like super like new engaging thing, a process that like I had never seen before. Most people haven't. And her music is also just like really, really fresh, like catchy, like just a lot of like, we've just been getting a lot of like great responses to it. So over the past, I guess like almost a year now, we've been like building her career. She played her first show and like quit her job last year in June, and went on to open for people like SG Lewis and like Boys Noise, Toki Monster, Blue to Tiger, a bunch of people. She played at Elon's Met Gala party too, which was something that I set up. And
That's awesome.
Yeah. So since then, like, she's been putting out music too, and like playing all these crazy shows with like all the coding and stuff. And just been getting a lot of great feedback. And, we haven't signed with a deal yet. So that article was about female managers or independent female artists and who are in their female management teams. And it was really cool because my friend Haran actually wrote it. And she was like, oh my God, you guys are perfect for this article, because like the way you've been like building Dave is like really, really impressive. And so she wanted to feature us like among like Victoria Monet, who's like a huge artist who's like works with Ariana Grande a lot. And she's also independent. And this other artist, Thui, I think is how it's pronounced, but it was basically profiling like 3 different teams. And it was so cool. Like, I remember like when I heard that was going to happen, I was like, oh my God, like that's like a huge deal. But then I don't think I really realized like how big of a deal it was when I like saw like our photo there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a photo there, and then like, I posted it, and like people were like, it was such a positive response. It felt like really validating in a way where like, I was like, okay, like, people are actually, like seeing the stuff that we're doing, and it's, reacting, and people are like, actually like, respect us, and, think that, and it was just cool to like kind of tell that story. So yeah, it was really sick.
That's awesome. So, what are you working on right now?
Right now, I am helping deliver Grimes' album, waiting for Dave to wrap up her EP, and then we're, gonna figure out who's gonna distribute that. And so that's fun. We've got a lot of interest right now. I also have a few other producers who are doing amazing stuff. One of my producers, Sophie Gray, she just turned 18. She's absolutely crushing it. She's like she worked with like YG yesterday, but she's also working with like, a bunch of amazing prominent artists, and she's so young. And so she just graduated, and we're like going crazy. And she's a star. And yeah, just like building my company more too. Called Against All Evil is my company name. And I don't know if I mentioned that already, but definitely like continuing to, build a community with women who are in the studio, and, setting up all female rooms, and, just continuing to like, make a community where artists and, women in the studio can feel safe, and, just be vulnerable and make great music, and, which is what everyone deserves. But a lot of the time, just the unfortunate dynamics are, prevent that from happening. So yeah, I'm focused on that. I'd love to like build out my company more, find other managers who are, young, have the same goals as I do, and like, hoping to like build my company over the next year. And yeah.
That's awesome. So if people want to find you, where should they go to check you out?
My Instagram is auxiliary underscore priest. Is my Wu-Tang name. All my sisters have like our Wu-Tang names as our Instagram handles.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. First of all,
thank you, Chad. It's so fun.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed getting to talk to you and getting to know you a little bit. I'm really enjoying getting to know your mom. We chat a good bit, and she is such a huge fan of you.
I'm a huge fan of hers. She's the reason why I'm, even doing or even like remotely successful in like any way. So love that. And yeah, let me know when you're in LA.
Yeah, we got to set something up. I would love to come hang out and see what you're doing in person.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So you guys be sure to check her out. Check out all the artists she's working with. You're getting in on the ground floor right now because it's going to be huge. So
hopefully.
Yeah. Well, when you do, we'll follow up. We'll do another episode.
Sounds good.
How you're killing it.
All right.
So thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks,
It's been
Chad.
another awesome episode of From the Shadow today with Miss Hannah Hicks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to From the Shadow podcast. New podcasts are released every Tuesday. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with at least one friend and tag us on Instagram at From the Shadow Podcast. Also, it would help us tremendously if you would rate the podcast on Apple Music and Spotify. From the Shadow with Chad Bearden.